Okay, welcome to this week's Tanya class. We are studying chapter 10. In Hebrew it's called Perez Yud. So this week's discussion is about, I'll say it in Hebrew and then I'll translate, the Tzadik Gomor and Tzadik She'eno Gomor, which means Tzadik is a righteous man, the righteous man that's Gomor, which is complete, and the righteous man which is incomplete, or there's another term called Tzadik V'tovlo, a Tzadik which is good for him, and Tzadik V'raloi, which the literal translation is bad for him, and we'll explain what that means. So in other words, this chapter we're focusing on what is the definition of a Tzadik according to the Alter Rabbi in Tanya, which is actually a revolutionary definition than when you would see it, for example, in the revealed part of the Torah, like in the Talmud, Mishnah, etc. This is the Kabbalistic insight what a tzaddik is. Now, it's an important chapter. Why? Because don't we all want to be tzaddikim? Don't we all want to be like righteous people?
Yeah.
So, what?
We're not.
I didn't say that. But don't we all want to be righteous people? So, in order to be something, you have to know what you want to be. In other words, tzaddik is just a term. But if you don't know what it means to be that tzaddik, so here we're going to learn today what it means to be a tzaddik.
Well, I was going to learn it.
Okay, that's a different word, but it's a concept.
Oh.
We're going to learn today what the definition of a tzaddik is, and then we'll see how we can attain that level. So the Alter Rebbe explains like this, that we've been studying the last few weeks about the fact that we each have a godly soul. We each have an animal soul, and the godly soul and the animal soul both have 10 faculties divided in 3 intellectual faculties, Chachma, Bina, and Das, and 7 emotional faculties starting from Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes, all the way down to Netzach, Hod, Yisod, and Malchut, the emotional ones. And we also have the levushim, which are the garments, of machshava, dibur, and ma'isa, thought, speech, and action. So now, to understand what a tzaddik is, we'll work from the bottom up. In other words, like this. Let's start with the garments, because that's more external. The reason I'm calling it bottom, it's more external to who you really are. It's an external. For example, anybody can put on the jacket. Anybody can wear a doctor's coat and be a doctor or not be a doctor. It's external. It's not really who you are. But 9 out of 10, if you're in a hospital and the guy wearing a white jacket, he's probably a doctor. Especially if he has a degree and it's his name and so on and so forth. But that doesn't tell you if he's a good doctor or not. If he went to school and he was a good student and he has experience, he's good. But that's really internal stuff. But back to our point. So levushim, what is levushim? Garments. Now, garments, there's pros and cons with the garments, is the fact that a garment you can put on, take off, whether you're in the mood or not in the mood. For example, let's say it's freezing outside, and you're not in the mood of wearing a coat. But you know if you're going to go out and you're not going to wear a coat, you're going to get sick. You're going to catch pneumonia. So listen, you're not in the mood, put it on anyway. You can be not in the mood. You can think it's actually ridiculous, but you can still do it. So in other words, the pros with the levushim are you can put it on even if you're not in the mood. The cons are it's not really you. But in relation to serving God, the levushim, the garments, are extremely important for that reason, because even though it's not really you, in the garments, the expression is you can fake it until you make it. In other words, you can still do all the mitzvot, you can still not transgress in the world of action, you can sit and study Torah, you can sit and have all positive thoughts, even though you don't believe it, and you don't think it's right, and you think it's ridiculous, and you think it's a cult, whatever you want to think. Garments we have full control over always. You know, whether we're in the mood or not, we can still put on garments. And as we know, a lot of times we say things, we think things that we're not in the mood of. But that, again, does not tell us really who you are. The benefit, again, is that if you're not in the mood, you can still be nice, you can still be kind, you can still be generous, you can still be gentle. So when we talk about garments, that plays a big role where in the life would be of a rasha, someone that's wicked, that can still do the right thing even though he really wants to not do it, absolutely not, or wants to do something terrible. Or in the life of the Beinoni, which we will get to in depth, the internal aspect of the Beinoni, but the Beinoni can still act a life, a beautiful life, a godly life. And for sure, obviously the Tzadik acts in action, in speech, and in thought on all three levels, first class. So thought, speech, and action, not an issue. In anyone's life, you can either do it or not do it. Obviously, by the tzaddik, that's not the issue here. For sure, all his actions are in line with God, all his speech is in line with God, and all his thoughts are in line with God. Today, we're going to learn more about the inner workings, the back room, so to speak, of the tzaddik. In other words, who is the tzaddik? We're going to go now into taking a journey into his intellect and into his emotions of where does the tzaddik stand. And here is where it gets unique to the tzaddik, where his way of thinking and feeling, that is specifically unique to the tzaddik. In other words, what that means is as follows. As we said before, thought, speech, and action, you don't have to be holding on that level. You can still do it. Here we're going into your intellect, the mind, not the active mind or the active feeling, because that could be like a garment. Also, you can think things you don't agree with. We're talking about, in Hebrew, there's a word called hashkafa. Hashkafa would be your outlook, your mindset, your default thinking process, thinking pattern, your mental, instinctive ideas. In your emotions, your natural feelings towards life, towards the world, towards peace, happiness, God, and opposite of God. And as we're going into your core intellect, and your core emotions. So, the tzaddik gomor, let's say, let's start with the highest, all the way to the right. Tzadik gomor, which is the complete tzaddik. Or tzaddik v'toivloi, the tzaddik which is great for him. When we refer to the tzaddik, a righteous man that's complete, it's not even a question his thought, speech, and action are okay. The Beinoni also, his thought, speech, and action are okay. In other words, in thought, speech, and action, there is no difference between the tzaddik and the Beinoni. Tzaddik and Beinoni both do all the mitzvot, say all the prayers, is kind, gentle, have all the right thoughts. There's no difference. Here we're going to learn what's unique about the tzaddik versus the Beinoni is that the tzaddik, his mindset and his natural feeling is uniquely lined up with God and godliness. Now, what does that mean practically? What does that mean practically? As we learned, every one of us have a godly soul and have an animal soul. Now, the godly soul, if you just had a godly soul, so what is the raw godly soul by definition? It's godly. What does that mean? The godly soul just sees and feels the world as a godly place. The godly soul sees everyone and everything as good. Everyone and everything as with tremendous potential. Everything is peaceful. Everything is happy. Everything is perfect. And its whole motive is, how do I serve God? What does God want me to do? And it's not even a question, will I do something contrary to godliness? The godly soul, by definition, it's a godly soul. That's what it is. It's like a cup of water. What's a cup of water? A cup of water. You don't have to say a cup of water is not a cup of soda. Why would you think that? It is water. The same thing also, godly soul, what does it want? What does it do? It's a soul, it's a life force, it's an energy, whatever God wants. praying, studying, doing mitzvot, helping people, being happy, being kind. It's not even a question of not getting involved in stupidity. Why would that even be? Just like you wouldn't think that water is soda, why would you even think of something like, silly or opposite of godliness? That's not what it is. That is basically the godly soul with blinders. It's not really blinders. It sees the whole world that way. But it sees the world from the lens of a godly perspective. But God gave us an animal soul. And as we learned before, the animal soul is not necessarily bad. The animal soul is animalistic, selfish, survival. But the Tzadik, just like the Beinoni and the Rasha, have a godly soul and an animal soul. The difference is, and we're going to take all the way to the right extreme, that the Tzadik Gomer, the complete Tzadik, which that's the goal, that's the bar we all want to get to, right? With joy. It's a great place to be. I see you smiling, you can't wait to get there, right? It's going to be wonderful when you get there. On all levels. I'm not saying you're not there, as we all have different levels, we're there at certain areas in life, we are there, that, and so on and so forth. But obviously the goal is to live on that level. Real peace, real joy. Exactly. But on the highest level. So the Tzadik Gomer, the complete Tzadik, his animal soul has been so transformed that the animal soul, guess what? It's called animal soul because it was once upon a time an animal soul. But really, on some level, it's just another version of the godly soul.
With more energy. With
more energy, exactly. It's the animal soul transformed to see the world from a godly perspective. So therefore, see, the godly soul, when it sees the world, it's like it sees everything as godly, but it's dull because there's no friction. The animal soul that became like a godly soul that sees the world. Oh my gosh, this is God too. This is God. Is excited about everything. Enthusiastic. So the Tzadik Gomer, the godly soul, sees godliness and everything, and the animal soul sees godliness in everything. And has zero interest. Not only has zero interest, it doesn't really even exist anything that's not godly. So whatever it sees, it's either godly or it's an opportunity to make it a godly experience. But it doesn't see, there's 0% failure there. 0%. Not 1% or 2 or 5 or even a half. 0% failure. It's 100% godly lenses. There's nothing that you can say, do, that will cause a tzaddik to have even a 0.1% of sadness, sadness or depression, which is not godly, or to think of doing something which is not godly, or not to do a godly experience at every moment. It's not in the cards. Not in the cards. It's 100% pure. That is the Tzadik Gomer. Now, the question is, and we'll talk about the Tzadik Sheini Gomer in a second, but I want to give you a complete picture. The question is, how does the Tzadik Gomer attain that level? That's a powerful level. In other words, the goal here is not to teach us academics. I mean, even though it's important to know the facts, but the goal is for us to see how the Tzadik gets there, so that we could not only emulate his ways, but learn from his techniques how to achieve the same level. So how does the Tzadik get to the level that not only the godly soul is 100%, but the animal soul is also on board, and anything that's not godly doesn't exist? Not only doesn't exist, there's such a hate and a disgust to it that it wouldn't be even an issue. Here, give me an example, right? Let's say you're a respectful human being, you have your values, right? And let's say, for example, you like eating, we're not going to go into specifically what you eat because everyone has different things, but you like eating fresh food. You wouldn't eat anything that's spoiled, right? Whether it's bread or chicken or meat or vegetables, you can eat fresh, right? Good quality stuff. Now, what happens, you were out of town for a couple of weeks, you come home at night, late at night, right? All stores are closed, and you didn't eat all day because you were running, you missed a flight, and you're hungry, etc. And you get home, it's like midnight, and you're starved. You didn't eat in the last 3 days, and today you didn't eat nothing, and you come to your house, and you forgot to get groceries before you left, and the only thing that's laying in the house is like a 70% rotten tomato. It's not maggots, don't get me wrong. It's like, I'm not going to make it gross, but it's not fresh. Fresh it's not.
Cut it
But-
away to the 30%.
But you're, I don't mean 30% in one area, but talking global. Global. So it's not spoiled, but it's not 100% great. In a normal day, you would never even touch it. You wouldn't. But if I eat it, you usually go to the store, you can buy a fresh one, right? But you haven't eaten. You are starved. And you know if you don't eat, who knows, maybe you'll faint and collapse. Are you going to eat it? You're going to eat it.
Sure.
You might, bite your tongue or put a little salt on there. Whatever it is, you're going to eat it, right? Because it's not rotten. It's just not fresh. It's on the way. It's on the verge. It has like has already a little tinge of it's going that bad. But you still, it's not edible, right? So you can manage it. But so that's one, right? You can handle it, right? Why can you handle it? Because it's not really spoiled. It's not spoiled. But what happens if you come home, there's nothing. There's like nothing in the house. But guess what happens? You have a look, you smell some food. You go to the garbage, and in the garbage is a rotten banana that has actually bugs coming out of it. Literally bugs and maggots. You want me to like embellish it a little more? Right?
I think we have the...
You get the gist, right? It's something like, which is like beyond gross, right? Beyond nauseating. Bugs, maggots coming out of it, and you're starved. What are the chances you can eat it?
None.
None! Like you said, all of a sudden you're not so hungry, you'll wait it out till the morning, right? Why? Why is that? What's the difference? You were hungry before, you said, I must eat, otherwise I'm going to, who knows what, right? And I show you the 30%, it's rotten a little bit, you ate it. This you won't touch. Why? Why? It's very simple. Because certain things are non-negotiable, and certain things are negotiable. Something that's rotten, something that is bugs, and there's maggots, and there's, who knows what creeping out of it, you're not going to touch it. You'll starve if you have to, but you're not eating it. Why? Because there is a concept in you that certain things are disgusting. There's a line, there's a limit. There's limits. There are certain things which are borderline, right? Okay, now, what happens if you're in Hebrew, in Talmudic language, there's an expression called an istinus. An istinus is somebody that is it's more than a perfectionist. It's someone that if a tomato had even like 1/100% of a black dot, 100 perfect, you wouldn't even notice it, but someone that's like so particular is probably a good word, and you won't touch it, right? It's like literally can make you throw up. That's your personality, right? Or if the bread is not spoiled, God forbid, it's just a day old. There's no way you're putting it you're not even going to feed it to your dog. It's a personality thing, right? Whereas your border is much limited or wider, however you want to call it, right? And you come after the same trip, and you see that tomato, which 99% of the people are going to eat it, but for you see that, you're not touching it, are you going to eat it? No, I'll wait till tomorrow. I mean, depending, right? What does that mean? That means that depending on how you view yourself, or your quality that you set for yourself, or your standard you set for yourself, that's how much you're not going to do the opposite of it. You got the analogy? Okay. So the Alter says, a Tzadik Gomer, what does that mean someone's a Tzadik Gomer?
Complete.
But complete what? So we were talking more in the world of actions. We focus on what he's eating, not eating. The Alter was saying that Tzadik Gomer is somebody that his love for God is off the charts. We didn't say he's willing to do what God says. That's actions. His love for God is like off the charts. His intellectual connection with God is like, whoa, he's blown away with God. This infinite God, God that created the world. I can't even create one chair I can't create. Let alone put it together. I can maybe put something together, but forget about it. God created me, maintains me in this world, and all the millions and billions of people in this world, and he feeds us, he clothes us, he provides us air non-stop. Imagine he stopped providing oxygen, air, we're finished. Water and so on, right? So this person, this tzaddik, who has clarity of mind, and has his heart is plugged in to the reality of what's going on in the world. His eyes are opened. Think of tzaddik basically is somebody whose eyes are opened. Open to the truth. He's open to the truth that God created this phenomenal world. And he feels, wow, this is someone like, whoa, I like this guy. I mean, you're blown away. I mean, today somebody makes like a fascinating speech or whatever, everyone's also drawn to the guy. A speech. God created the person's speech. So at tzaddik, his eyes are open, he sees the truth, he feels the truth, and there's nothing that he's going to do that's not going to allow him to cleave to the truth. That's what a tzaddik is. So because he's so infatuated on an emotional level and an intellectual level with God, to him God is like, it's not like God is the thing. There's nothing that, it's not like you can compare, let's say you count 1 to 100, right? It's 100 spaces away, 1,000, 100, 1,000,000, 10 billion, right? There's a comparison. Whatever, even if it's 1 to 1,000,000,000, it's a comparison. To him, there's nothing, it's not even a comparison. How can you compare any human being, any physical thing to God? There's no comparison. God's this infinite creator that created and keeps on creating. There's no comparison, anything to it. So you're going to go and impress him with somebody, someone's going to make a dance, someone's going to make an impression, some piece of food or some human being that's going to attract the person more than God. If you're really infatuated with God, with the infinite God, there's nothing in this world that's going to even get you to blink or to get you to veer off, look somewhere else. Why would you? You have God, infinite power. So in other words, the tzaddiks, it's hard for us to relate to it. I mean, I'm talking to myself, because obviously I'm not a tzaddik, right? But the point is that a tzaddik's love for God is way beyond anything we can comprehend of. Because what do we get excited about? What, we had there's a good lunch or a good dinner, you know what I mean, a good class. Even you can't help comparison to the infinite power of God. So a tzaddik, because he's in such love with God and so intellectually connected with God, there's nothing that he's getting excited about. Not only is he not getting excited about it, he looks at everything else. It's like, it's narishkeit, it's silliness. It's like, it's such a joke. It's like a joke. It's like if somebody was worth, try to give an example, but it's not even a real example. Let's say someone's worth, $100 billion, right? And you're going to try to make a deal with him to make 5 cents. I mean, do you think he has even a head for it? And spend now 3 hours to try to make 5 cents. And that's 5 cents, and there's a comparison, because it isn't the same. You can't compare. So, in other words, because the tzaddik's love for God is so great, there's nothing that's going to get his attention unless it's in that category. Is there anything in that category? Close to it? No. Nothing. Not in this world.
Right.
So a tzaddik is sitting in this world, and he says, guess what? I got God. I'm in love with this God. I'm literally in love with this God. I'll pray to him. I study his Torah. Any of his mitzvot. It's not because this, no, it's because it's God's mitzvah. I'm willing to do any mitzvah. God says be nice to everybody. I don't care what they behave or what they act. It doesn't make a difference to me. God told me to be nice to everybody, irrelevant how they act. So do I care if you're going to spit me in the face? Or you're going to say something silly? Or you're going to insult me? Or you're going to act foolish? No, because I don't work for you. I work for who? I work for God. He gave me marching orders. You ever see the way, the soldier stands by the guard gate? Like in a real kingdom. Whether it's in any royal kingdom, they don't I was in Russia, and there's guards standing by the gate there. You have to look for 20 minutes to see whether the person's really a mummy that's there. It's no joke.
They don't even blink.
They don't even blink. Or the person's alive that's so serious their job. We were standing for 20 minutes. We had a debate whether the guy is real or it's fake. The guy stands at attention
Machine.
like a machine. Wouldn't blink. Why do you think he's doing that? Because the fear and the awe that he has for his... you can't do that as a hired person. He obviously was either self-induced or was indoctrinated about the fear of the royal, majesty and the power of Russia. Whatever, irrelevant. But the point is that that's the way a tzaddik views the world. The only thing he's excited about is God. Tell him something else. Hey, let's go out for lunch. Lunch? I'm busy with God. Lunch? I mean, I just need to eat. Give me something so I can survive. But I mean, I'm on a high mission here. I mean, why would I get excited about the lunch, going out for lunch or eating something? Yeah, I got to eat, so fine. Give me the food, let me make the blessing, let me eat it so I can have strength, so I can continue serving God. That's the only thing that excites a tzaddik. So in other words, here's the key point, and this is crucial. Because a tzaddik basically is extremely in love with God, extremely deeply connected with God intellectually, so it's not that he hates anything which is counter of godliness. And he has like this passionate hate against anything which is not godly. No. That's missing the point. True, he does hate it, but not because he hates it. It's because he's busy. It's like, could you imagine if I tell you, I'm going to invite you as a gift to a room for 1 hour, and in this 1 hour, there's diamonds there. You can take as many diamonds as you can, fill up in your pockets and in bags for 1 hour. So you walk into the room, and you have 1 hour, but in the middle, they have sushi stands, and they have music, and they have nice photography, right?
Distraction.
And they have entertainment, and they have good gossip, right? Good conversations. What are you going to do? You know you have 1 hour, and the 1 hour thing is over. Are you going to spend time eating sushi now? Are you going to be sitting and dancing to music now? Are you going to be playing a game or gossiping with someone? You have 1 hour. If you're smart... Where do I get the diamonds, right? How do I fill up the pockets, the bags? And you're walking out. Or you can, I'll get the diamonds in a minute. I have an hour. Meanwhile, you go eat sushi, right? And you have some drink of wine. Then you'll play a game with someone. You'll gossip. Boom, hour's over. Guess what? Oh, I want to get stuff. Hour's up. The tzaddik doesn't waste a second. He knows his time in this world is how long? Limited. Whatever the time is. It's a finite time. In this world, he can have a relationship with God like no other. And he's going to spend every moment doing what? Eating sushi? Going out for steak and having a nice conversation? Or praying, studying, doing mitzvot, inspiring other people. Guys, this is now the time to collect the diamonds. Come to heaven, the game is over. Whatever you brought with you, that's what you have. Because when you go to heaven, all the Torah you studied, whether it's 10 pages or 5,000 pages, you will learn it deeper. But if you come with 1 page or no pages, you have nothing to advance on. So here you get the diamonds. Here you get the foundation for your whole future. So back to the point. So a tzaddik is totally focused. His love for God, his intense intellectual connection with God. Therefore, does anything have any value to him? No, it's actually wasting his time. He actually resents that they put sushi in the room and they have entertainment in the room because you're wasting my time. You're trying to distract me. This is narishkeit. This is diamonds we have here. Why he's actually upset. Not upset to the point he's angry. He knows this is a distraction. It's not even a question, it's a distraction. So that is basically the definition of what? Of a tzaddik gomer. And here's the second word. He's a complete. Why is he complete? Because when he walks into the room, in the analogy, is he focused on one thing? What?
Love
of God. The diamonds. Love of God. The connection with God. So he's complete. He's not being pulled, let me grab a piece of sushi. He has no interest. He knows the value of a diamond. He's not interested he has zero interest in going to now for a dance or going to have a conversation with somebody. Zero. Because his eyes are opened. As we said before, the light is on. He knows what really is the value, and he knows every second spending time with that stuff is taking away from getting the real diamonds, the spiritual diamonds. So it's tzaddik, he's complete. He doesn't have these crazy things in his head or in his heart. He's not being torn. He's complete. He's not being torn. What is the other term? Tzadik v'tovloi. He has a good life. He's not being pulled to different parties in the same room. No. Sure, there's parties going on, but he's not pulled. He's one party. He has a good life. Life is great for him. Focused on one party. That is to one extreme. You got it? Tzadik gomer. Tzadik v'tovloi. Again, you might look at it, oh, he's only busy doing the mitzvot. That is true. But again, the key point is that from an intellectual and emotional place, both his godly soul and his animal soul, more importantly, has been transformed. One thing. He has peace. And joy. So in reality, the Beinoni will also only go for the diamonds. But his heart is pulling him there. His mind is saying, maybe a little bit, right? He's not at peace. In his intellect and his emotions. The Tzadik Gomer is living a peaceful life. He has zero interest. Zero interest. You know what kind of thing that is? That's great. I mean, that is a high level. And that's a great place to be. Where your understanding of the greatness of God, hi, welcome. Your understanding of the greatness of God, your feeling for God is the only thing that's your driving force within you, and you're at peace with it. You have zero interest, welcome, have a seat, in anything else. On the other hand, what is a tzaddik she'eina gamur, or tzaddik v'ralei? So again, as we said before in the beginning of the class, thought, speech, and action, they're both going to end up on the same line. We're going for the diamonds. We're going to teach. We're going to pray. We're going to help you, right? But what does tzaddik she'eina gamur mean? Very simple. That his love for God is tremendous, but it's not 100%. It's 98%. And again, it could be a lot of variations. Anywhere from 99 down to whatever percentage you want to call it, right? A small percent, right? Whatever the percentage is, it's a certain percent less than the 100%. His love is not complete. Therefore, because his love is not 100% complete on God, even though he's still going to go for those diamonds, but while he's studying Torah and doing mitzvot and praying, his heart is a little bit, maybe
A little sushi.
Maybe a little sushi. There you go. Maybe a little sushi, and some red wine with it, right? And some red wine with it, right? Or maybe like a steak sandwich, right? Whatever it may be, correct? Or maybe go out and have a dance, right?
Fish.
But
I don't like steak.
Fish, let it be fish, fine. So the tzaddik she'eina gamur, what does that mean? There's a part to him. No, at the end he's not going to go there. He's not going to go there because he knows he's focused. Studying Torah, doing mitzvot, praying. Even if he goes, he's there to elevate the sushi, to make a blessing, to elevate it, etc. His goal is the same, but his heart is like a little nagging at him, gnawing at him, or his mind. He's not 100% sure this is the right decision. Again, not 50%, not 70%, a few percent. And obviously that few percent, varies on each person. Now, so the question is, if he has that percent that's already, so why is he not a Beinoni? What's a Beinoni? A Beinoni is basically, as we discuss, and we'll discuss in a couple of chapters when we get back into the life of the Beinoni, which is the real struggle. The Beinoni basically is the struggle between the godly soul, the animal soul. It means his heart and his mind are constantly playing games with him. In thought, speech, and action, he's going to do just like the tzaddik. So what's the difference between the Beinoni and the tzaddik she'eina gamur? It's not complete, very simple. In the Beinoni, there's a strong percentage. And the strong percentage is a notable percentage, and it's a real percentage. Tzadik she'eina gamur, according to the Alter Rebbe, is someone that is there, but it's there. You can't say it's not there. He's not 100% in the love for God. There is a percentage, but it's not enough of percent that really makes it a real struggle. It just bothers him. In other words, like this. In other words, the analogy they give is, for example, let's say you have a pot of soup, chicken soup, and a drop of milk falls into the pot of chicken soup, but there's more than 60 times the amount of chicken soup than the milk. So even though it was real milk that went in there, real milk, but it gets nullified. It gets nullified. And we say it's 100% kosher. You can't do it to begin with, but if it happened by accident, what's the point? The point is this. Did milk go in there, yes or no?
Yeah.
It did. You can't say it didn't. But could you say there's any taste of milk? No. Is it nullified? It's gone. So in other words, the same thing also. The Tzadik she'ein gomer is going to have this like tinge of, he's going to have this tinge of like a feeling in his emotions or in his mind, to do something, but it's gone. You know what I mean? But it still bothers him. You know what I mean? It's like it's there, but but it still bothers you.
But he's not a stinist.
Exactly.
Particular one.
Correct. Yes.
Has to have it just so.
Correct. So in other words, like this. So, and here's the key point, and I think it's so crucial, that the point is that if you really want to be on have the ultimate level of peace, because think about it, Tzadik Gomer, what does Gomer mean? Gomer means he's complete. Complete means he's complete. He doesn't have anything gnawing at him.
Right.
Toivla, he has a good life. The only way to do that, again, true, you have to do thought, speech, and action, but that's not going to get you to the real place of peace. Real place of peace is going to be when you're able to transform yourself to the point where you really meditate and realize, and your eyes opens up and you realize how great God is. And you realize how powerful God is. And you fall in love with God.
Yeah.
Fall in love with God from an emotional level, and you connect to God on an intellectual level, and therefore anything that's not God, zero. It doesn't even go on your radar.
But everything is God.
Right. Everything's God, but certain things God created in a way that God's concealed, so the concealment part doesn't go into the radar. Exactly. You see the godliness in it. In other words, to put it into practical terms, the author puts it in very practical terms. He says like this. What does that mean practically? So we know that it's brought down, it says, in Kabbalah and Zohar, the author brings it down in Tanya, that, I'll say it in Hebrew and I'll translate it. Nisava HaKadosh Baruch Hu, liyois lo yizborech, dir betachtonim. God had a desire to have a dwelling place betachtonim, in a low place. Now what does that mean? Let me translate and explain what it means. Nisava HaKadosh Baruch Hu means God had a desire. What means he had a desire? We know in the spiritual plane of intellect and emotions, above intellect is something which is called desire. That means desire comes from a place which is really actually higher than intellect. It means, let's say for example you have a feeling for something. That's great. You really you connected something intellectually. It's even deeper. But what if you have a desire for something? Desire is extremely powerful because it comes from your essence of your soul. So now, and in fact, the expression of mysticism is that when a person has a desire for something, you don't ask any questions. Why do you have a desire? You have a desire. Intellectually, I can explain to you why I like this versus that. That's if I only want it intellectually. Or if it makes you feel good, I can explain to you why it makes you feel good. But I say, listen, I have a desire. Why? I just do. So it says, because God had a desire. It means it came from a place where there's no reason. He wanted dira. What's a dira? A dwelling place. What's a dwelling place? A dwelling place means where you're comfortable. In your house, you're comfortable. If it's your house and only your home, you're comfortable. You can say what you want, you can think when you want, you can get up when you want, you can go to sleep when you want. You don't have to answer to anybody. It's your house. If you're a guest in somebody's house, we all know that you're not 100% comfortable. Even if it's a good friend and family, there are eyes watching, and there's people there, and there's certain etiquette and so on. It's not bad and good. It's just you're not really yourself. There's something about your own house. As a matter of fact, according to mysticism, a person does not have a house. It's not a person. Why? Because in order to be a person, you have to have a place which is yours. Doesn't necessarily mean you own it. You can be yourself. You can sing, you can dance, you can cry, you can laugh, you can do whatever you want. You can do nothing, whatever it may be. You can get up when you want, you can go to sleep when you want, you can say what you want, you can think. right? So a person has to, so God wanted a place in this world that should be a dwelling place for him. When he's a dwelling place, that God should feel comfortable.
In a low place.
Oh, but what does low mean? So we know low doesn't mean physically low, it means spiritually low. What does it mean spiritually low? In a place where God is not a reality. In a place where God's a reality, right? So nobody recognizes God. But in a place where God's not in a reality. In the physical world, all you see is physical things. You don't necessarily see, even though it's all God, but you don't see God.
He's hidden.
God's hidden. But in this physical world, people say, you know what? Somebody created this. And we're going to follow God. Now, the only reason you're following God is because you chose to follow God. No one's forcing you to follow God. You on your own thought about it. And you're choosing to follow God. Now, when you're choosing to follow God, it's a choice. Not only is it a choice, it's a hard choice. Because the whole world says, what are you wasting time with? This religion and Judaism and God and restrictions. You can't do this, you can't do that. Just live a free person, right? There's a lot of opposition. The whole world tells you, hey, do what you want, say what you want, pray when you want, study what you want, study this. You don't do whatever you want, right? Be a free person. But you're saying, no, that's very nice. You know who's really a free person? I want to follow God. Because I know he's the real power. He created this world, even though he's hiding. But I want to follow him. So God said, when a person in this physical world, where it's not apparent that God exists, and you make a conscious choice, and a conscious choice possibly against what the masses are saying, and you serve God and you recognize God's in the world, guess what happens? That's what I desired. That's what I desired.
That's what God desired.
God desired. That's what God desired. So when a tzaddik, one second. So when a tzaddik knows that, and he loves God, and he's deeply connected with God, and he says, what? God desired a dwelling place in this world? The only thing I will do from morning to night, day after day, week after week, month after month, is do one thing. What is that? Make sure that God's desire is actualized. That in this dark world, there's going to be a place to study Torah. There's going to be a place to pray. There's going to be people doing mitzvot. There's going to be people that's going to be happy, even with all the chaos in the world and all the reasons not to be happy. And with all the reasons to fight, no, we're going to be unified anyway. We're going to get along anyway. We're going to love each other, even though there's reasons to hate each other. No, because we're going to make this world a place that what? God's going to say, this is the place I wanted. So why is the tzaddik doing this? Because it feels good? Because he's trying to get brownie points with God? No. Because God had a desire. I would like to actualize God's desire. For only one reason. Because I want God's desire to be fulfilled in this world. I have no agenda. No agenda.
I want God to kvel.
Exactly. I want God to kvel. Exactly. 1 second. I want God to, exactly. So in other words, so what's a tzaddik? What's a tzaddik? What's a righteous person? Because he loves God. Again, we're not talking the functional part of following God as a follower. Because he loves God, and he's deeply connected to God, and he knows God has this desire, he has one agenda.
He wants him to flow through them.
What's his one agenda? That God should be felt in this world, because that's what God wanted.
That was his desire.
Once a tzaddik does that, anything that's going to make God unwelcome in this world, no, I don't want to hear about it. You can have every reason why you want to do it. It's not for discussion. Not up for discussion. Because we're only doing things, thinking, only things that makes God welcome. You know what makes God welcome in this world? You pray, you study, you get along, you're happy, you do mitzvot, you unify people, you love people. That's what makes God happy. That's what we're doing. Anything the opposite of that, we're not doing it. Done. And that is ultimately a tzaddik, gomor. A tzaddik, she'ena gomor, means, as we said before, he like to do that 95%. Yeah, 5%. Listen, I got to take care of my own needs, right? And that's where, in actuality, he'll still do everything God wants. But in his heart, he's not sold 100%. Or he's not, the love is not burning 100%, etc. But ultimately, if we're able to act like a tzaddik, even if sometimes we're not holding in that level, And here's a key point Aldo brings out in this chapter in Tanya. It sounds like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I'll never be able to hold that level. It's true, it's a high level, because your heart has to feel it. Your mind has to be connected to it. But the Aldo says, but you can still practice it, even though you're not feeling it, you can still make believe you're feeling it. And you can still accept it, even though you're not there yet. And as long as you, so to speak, play it out and you fake it, eventually you can make it. Eventually you can make it. But look at the prize at the end. You'll be a real, complete person with no two voices and two messages schlepping you different places. Because at the end of the day is, what do you want? What do we all want? We want peace. We want clarity. And because we have peace and clarity, you can do anything. And you can deal with everything. And the only way you can really have peace and clarity is when you have one driver. And when you have one love for the greatest thing, God. And one deep understanding of God, right? And it says, Hashem, everyone will know the knowledge of God. Your eyes will open up and see it. And then you're about to experience the greatest level of peace and happiness. That is the essence of chapter 10.